Hey, what's up you guys? I'm Sarah Labrat and I was recently in New York for 2 weeks. I already made a vlog about the first week. If you have not already checked that out, you can watch that here. This vlog is from the second week of that trip and it was a full week in New York City. Also in this second week in New York, I had one of the bougiest days I've ever had in my life. If you go on to enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up because that really supports my channel. And now without further ado, let's get into this New York vlog. Love being in New York. I've been in New York for about a week now, but last night we got back from upstate and Long Beach Island in New Jersey. And now for the rest of my trip, which is about just under a week, we should be in New York City for the remainder of that time, which I'm really excited about. Today was kind of a catch-up day for both me and the person that I'm visiting. She got a ton of work done today, which was really fun to kind of be around that because she also works for herself. And then I was working on my social media stuff. I kind of want to see if I can do a little bit of book editing today. And honestly, I should probably just do that right now. Yeah, I like that idea. Let's do it. Last night, there was also a huge cockroach that was hiding under one of my bags that when I went to grab something, it scampered out and ran into the air conditioning vent. So I have since zipped up all my bags because it was a very large cockroach and I didn't want to deal with that. I just finished rereading that chapter that I just sat down to work on, and I'm definitely going to need to restructure the conversation that's had because it just kind of doesn't flow the way that I want it to as it currently sits. But I think I'm going to get up and get a little bit more pulled together for the day, see if we're going to go grab food soon or something, and just kind of check in on that and not necessarily force myself to finish up this chapter right now. That night, we actually ended up walking through Central Park on our way to go watch a movie on the pier, and it was an amazing walk. I mean, walking through Central Park and New York in general is always so much fun. And it seemed like this kind of outdoor movie event happens somewhat frequently because it was already very busy. It was quite well known, but we packed a picnic and went to go watch My Cousin Vinny on the pier with the New York City skyline behind us, which was so incredibly stunning. We laid out our little picnic blanket and kind of had to sit a little bit further back, and it was really funny how the screen was blowing in the wind and distorting all the faces. And so about halfway through the movie, we actually ended up giving up and heading back just because we wanted to go back to the apartment and watch it there because we wanted to actually be able to hear it because I had never seen the movie before and wanted to actually have a true watching experience. Today, July 27th, has mostly been a work morning / afternoon. I started off with posting an Instagram reel, TikTok, and YouTube short, and then I went in and I post and promoted my new YouTube video that just went live this morning. And then I followed through with some of the notes that I took from taking Catherine Manning and Cameron Monet's workshop on how to create profitable influence, because I took 4 or 5 pages of notes, which was more than I was expecting to take during that workshop. And so then I spent some time earlier today implementing some of the things that I had taken notes on, which I'm very, very proud of. And I reached out to a brand for a sponsorship, which I haven't done in a while. And it's a brand I really love. If nothing comes from it, that's fine. But the worst thing they can do is not respond or say no. So why wouldn't I try? And now I'm working on editing my YouTube video for this upcoming Monday. So it's been a very productive day so far. Yesterday, we went to go watch My Cousin Vinny, which I had not seen before, out on a pier, and it was a really gorgeous backdrop, but we were sitting far enough back from the screen that we couldn't really hear what was going on. So we had our picnic dinner, and then when we were done eating, we just came back to the apartment and then watched the second half of the movie. And I really enjoyed it. I was very impressed with how well the movie stood up, considering that it was made 31 years ago, and I tend to not like movies made that long ago, but it was a very, very lovely evening. That night, on our way to a house party in Brooklyn, we did some walking around New York City on our way to dinner, and we got dinner at a vegan, or primarily vegan, I believe, dumpling restaurant, and just absolutely got a stunning spread of a bunch of different vegan options like scallion pancakes and dumplings and mapo tofu. And then we headed over to this house party in Brooklyn, which, being able to say that I went to a house party in Brooklyn that hosted live music and everything is just such an insane statement, and I had so much fun. But the host had a music studio in the basement, fully decked out, that my friend had recorded at before. And then the live music that they had that night was performing, and so we all kind of gathered around. And this is how I know I'm not cut out for show business, because I would be so uncomfortable performing at a house party for a bunch of people in any respect whatsoever. And I was incredibly impressed that this person was just okay with singing in front of a bunch of people that he both did know and did not know. And the next day we picked up some groceries because we were headed over to one of my friend's apartments for a pizza night. They were going to be making a bunch of pizzas. They got pizza dough from down the street from like a local pizzeria. We got a bunch of different ingredients and we were all just gonna kind of like make pizzas together. I was gonna make my own little vegan pizzas on the side, and everybody got involved with stretching the dough, putting on the toppings, and it was a really fun environment to be making just pizzas with these people. We grilled the pizzas, which was kind of crazy, and then we just ended up hanging out outside drinking some wine. One of the guys had a lizard that he brought out. That was just the cutest little thing ever and so friendly. One thing I really was appreciating in New York was my slow mornings, that I just kind of got to drink a coffee, go out and get breakfast, and just kind of like be allowed to slowly wake up, which I think was very, very, very necessary. After getting brunch at this vegan spot, which is, I've got to say, one of my favorite spots in New York so far, we took the train over to Smorgasburg, which is basically a food festival, which kind of was reminiscent of like just an outdoor food market, which was basically just a bunch of tents set up serving different styles of food, and we ended up getting lemonade and some Venezuelan food, even though we had just finished brunch, and it was delicious. It was very, very hot fried food on a very, very hot New York day, but it was right on the river and absolutely overlooking this magnificent view. And this day was really just very food heavy, which I feel like you have to have a couple of those days whenever you're in New York. And the sunset too on this evening was just so gorgeous. But then we went to potentially another one of my favorite New York restaurants, which is Planta, which is kind of like an all vegan, I would say mostly Japanese restaurant of smaller plates. And so we are able to get a bunch of different things like vegan sushi and vegan noodle dishes. We got an eggplant sushi and a watermelon tuna sushi, which was so fascinating. And this is one of my favorite dishes that we ended up getting. It was an avocado, lime, and beet tartare, reminiscent of like a tuna tartare. And I obviously have not had tuna or beef or anything like this in any kind of style like this since I went vegan over 8.5 years ago now. And I loved this dish. I was such a big fan of like tuna tartare towers and like, you know, just really acidic, very limey avocado, really fresh dishes like this. And so I wrote down everything that is listed for this menu item, and I'm going to attempt to make this at some point in time because it was so good. And I really think my mom would like it too, so I want to try and make this dish for her. And then of course, because we were at a vegan restaurant, had to get dessert. And then after this fully dedicated day to eating, we went out to a nightclub, which was officially the first like true nightclub experience I've had in New York. And I love to dance. That is the only reason that I will ever go out, is if I can dance. And there are just not good dancing places in Salt Lake City. And so being in New York and actually being able to go to a nightclub, this place had like 4 or 5 different rooms happening all at the same time with different music, different DJs, different lighting situations. You could kind of like pick and choose your own adventure. And it really satisfied the void that is not having been able to go to a nightclub here in Utah. In and amongst everything else going on, I was trying to stay on top of my YouTube uploads, which I was doing a pretty good job with. I would normally start my mornings with that, and then we'd head out to pick up bagels and make coffee, and again, just enjoy some of those slower morning moments. And we actually ended up going to New Jersey to get dinner with my friend's parents, and it was a gorgeous train ride. I've only ever taken that train at night so far, but we went over there and got sushi, and then came back and got ice cream at Van Leeuwen, however you pronounce that. And a good majority of their menu is actually just vegan ice cream. So I got a chocolate vegan milkshake, which was incredible. And then that brings us to the last full day that I had in New York, which we started off very strong with having our breakfast be some Mediterranean food. I got a falafel wrap. It was absolutely delicious. And then we launched into the bougiest day that I have potentially had in my life, and was one of the biggest highlights of this trip to New York. So after getting our Mediterranean food, we headed over to the Equinox in Hudson Yards, which is one of the nicest Equinox locations to exist. My friend is a social media manager and had just booked a big new client, and so to celebrate, she had been eyeing an Equinox membership, and so she finally ended up jumping on it. They get 2 guest passes a year, which is insane to me, and she used one of them on me so that we could go experience it, kind of use that to celebrate as part of our celebration, but then the celebrations just kind of kept continuing. This was my first time ever at an Equinox, and it was so stunning. I do think that this is the best kind of exposure to an Equinox that I could have possibly gotten. We decided to take our laptops and do a little bit of co-working in some of their common spaces, and then after that we decided to get a short workout in, short and sweet. It was really nice to be able to use some of the machines that I don't have at my apartment gym, and then we tried using the cold plunge pools, which I had never done before, and it was so cold.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
I can't go further.
You can do it, you can do it. Get the belly button in once you get past the...
I think it was set to like 50 something degrees, which is pretty warm for a cold plunge, and I could not even get all the way in. We hung out by the pool for a little bit, then I hit the sauna and just kind of enjoyed all of the wonderful amenities that a gym offers that I have not been able to have since getting kicked off of my parents' gym membership when I turned 26. And yes, it was making me wish that I had a gym membership, and maybe at some point I will get another one here. But this is when things really took a step up. After going to Equinox, we went back to the apartment, showered, we started getting ready for dinner. I straightened my hair, we had a glass of wine, all to get ready for dinner that night, which was at 11 Maddison Park, which is a 3-star Michelin restaurant. And it is the only 3-star Michelin restaurant that is fully vegan, and therefore I believe is the highest rated vegan restaurant in the world. So I got spoiled on this trip. 11 Maddison Park used to not be a vegan restaurant, and then in 2021, Daniel Hume decided that veganism was the future and decided to take his 3-star Michelin restaurant completely over to a plant-based menu. And during that shift, kept his 3 Michelin stars, which is huge for a restaurant. And as somebody who has loved food for forever and considered going to culinary school instead of college at one point in my life, being able to go to a restaurant this nice as a vegan too was so insanely cool. I'm not gonna lie, the wine menu was terrifying. It had to be like 400 to 500 pages thick, and I don't know how people choose wine at a place like this. We were going to try and put together our own wine configuration for our meal, but after ordering champagne, ended up just getting the wine pairing because, again, the wine menu was so thick that it was very daunting. And then we went into having some of the most interesting food I've ever had, which started with a clear tomato beverage, which was essentially, I believe they called it a clarified drink, where it tasted like heirloom tomatoes and basil, and it was so incredibly good, but it was a clear drink, and it was served in a cocktail glass with a cocktail ice cube that was imprinted with the logo of the restaurant and served with a tomato dish of like tomatoes served in different forms. And I was out of my depth already at this point. And then they served a tomato and tofu dish. And I know that all of this sounds so simple, but it was just such exquisite taste in the simplicity. And then we got into what I believe was my favorite dish, which was the sunflower course. And it was something like sunflower and summer beans and yuzu, but it was just so beautifully plated. And I would eat this like every day for the rest of my life if I could. And it was served with like a croissant-like bread with a butter made from sunflower with then a sunflower butter on top, as in like the sunflower seed butter on top. And oh my gosh, it was so good. This one was fried okra with cucumber, basil, and finger lime. This fried okra ended up being my friend's favorite, and then they brought us more bread. We didn't know that we could ask for more bread. I just kind of assumed that they made the exact amount of bread that was needed for every night, but they brought us more bread and more butter, and I don't know why, but it was like that little thing. It definitely pushed me over the edge of being far too full by the end of it, but it was so good that in the moment I did not care. When I was recording this earlier, I missed a dish because I didn't get a clip of it, but there was a dish that was zucchini served in different ways, and it was like a zucchini puree, a flour, and then something else, and a couple of the components were smoked, and how they presented it was really cool, and I totally did not get a video clip of it, which is weird considering that I am a content creator and my friend is a social media manager. And then we got to dessert, which was a melon course, and it was a bunch of melon served different ways, and even like tapioca balls of melon and sorbet and like an ice sheet, and it was really, I don't know how to describe any of this is the problem, but it was all so incredibly delicious. Working with a sommelier to do our experimental wine pairing was really cool, and this guy was a riot. But there were 2 points in time where Anya would ask like, oh, what is this? And one time he was pouring wine, and he clearly was not ready to tell us yet, because as he was pouring wine, she asked him this, and his response was, "It's wine." And then he poured mine, and then when he was done, he stopped and like told us what was going on. After our dessert course, we were invited back to go see the kitchen, which was really cool, and they were wrapping up, but I was amazed at how incredibly well lit it was. That's probably kind of a stupid comment to make, but it was a gorgeous kitchen. And then we got to tour one of their wine cellars. We were specifically told that it was one of them because clearly this wine cellar could not hold all 400 or 500 pages of the wine menu. And then after our tour of the kitchen and the wine cellar, we were brought out a bottle of sweet vermouth and told to just sit and enjoy, and we could stay as long as we wanted. Our dinner reservations were at 8:30. We were told that it would be a 2 to 2.5 hour meal, and we ended up leaving at 12:30. We were there for a while, but we also were not the last people to leave, so I didn't feel bad about that. We were also given gift bags that had their signature granola in it and sent off with a little chocolate sesame pretzel moment, which was just an overall cool experience. What do you want to tell the people about the dinner that we just got back from?
It was so good. It was so well thought out. Every single thing was like very carefully done. I think there was like an effortlessness that existed. You could almost feel like it was like just done and thrown together, but that like you know that every single thing was engineered to feel effortless. That's how I feel about it, the whole dinner.
What was your favorite thing that we did or had?
I loved going into the kitchen.
We did. We got a tour of the kitchen and part of the wine cellar.
But I think that my favorite food was the roll with the sunflower butter, but actually also the last dish, the zucchini and seitan and
like the poblano and
the poblano with the
flour.
zucchini flour. Yeah, it was a squash flour. It was so good. It was so good. And I don't know what the green stuff was. We have a little menu that we could find out, but that was really good. I like the pairings too. I think that he did a really good job with the pairings, and I couldn't have done a better job picking a bottle of wine.
No, I'm glad that we did the wine pairing.
Yeah.
The sweet wine at the end of that was delicious.
Sarah loved that one.
It was kind of like syrup.
Also, honestly, the dessert drinks, like the cappuccino, was...
Oh, the latte was great. But like...
so perfect.
It wasn't not going to be great.
And there was this pretzel that was on like a coat hanger at the end.
Yeah.
It was like a little coat. It was like a little rack, and there was like a little pretzel hanging. But it was not really a pretzel. It was like an almond butter solid thing, like dipped in chocolate. So good.
And then they sent us home with granola, which I still have to try. And have you ever had? You haven't had the granola.
No.
We don't have to do it now.
I'm ready to show them.
The bag is cute though.
Hey.
Nice. It was supposed to be a 2.5 hour dinner, and
4 hours.
we ended up leaving at 12:30 in the morning.
They gave us
which means that we sat there for 4 hours.
They gave us a complimentary bottle of vermouth at the end.
Sweet vermouth, and they just left it at the table with us.
The whole
and
bottle.
We're just like, enjoy as much as
Stay
you
as
like.
long as you want.
And I was like, oh, thank you. After a tour of the kitchen and the wine cellar, it was fun. It was very fun.
That was bougie.
It was very bougie. And then because we were so full, we just vegged and watched Community. And then we were on my officially last day of the trip, which is the day that I was leaving. We started off with a New York bagel. I knew bagel, that's such a Minnesotan accent thing, but I knew that I needed one more bagel before leaving. And so even though I just do typically like a plain bagel with plain tofu cream cheese, still hit the spot. It was absolutely amazing. And then I had to head out for the airport, which was very sad. After 2 weeks in New York, I was kind of bummed to be leaving. I very much enjoyed my time there, but I also knew that I was very excited to come back to Utah and finally do some hiking again after 2 weeks of being away. And while I was on the plane, I did end up finishing editing that chapter that I had been working on several days before. And then I was back in Utah. I know that these New York vlogs did not have very much writing in them, but thank you for indulging me and watching them. I had a great time being in New York. I have already finished my next vlog, and it's a lot more writing, so make sure you stay tuned for that. That will be the next vlog that I'm posting. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Sarah Lebrat. I'm currently trying to post videos twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays, so if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.